color of that smoke?
That was the first thing I noticed, Mr. Hallett.
The smell. The odor.
Yes, I know.
The storeroom, it's full of solvents, of highly volatile solvents.
You think that caused the explosion?
It must have. But how? The storage arrangement was approved by this very fire department. It was like a vault. There was no way that any heat could get into it.
Well, you think then that maybe somebody did,
But how? It was always locked.
Wasn't there supposed to be a watchman on duty?
Of course, old Ben Matthews. $1 if he was anywhere near that explosion when it occurred. Oh, no.
In other words, if it was arson by somebody the watchman may have seen.
Arson?
I said if. And if that watchman did see anybody around.
Arson, all right, Dollar. Boys are sure of it.
They are, Lieutenant?
I can't believe it.
As for Ben Matthews, the watchman, well, I don't think there's much question but that he did see who did it. And that he knew him.
No?
Then you mean Ben is still alive?
That door had a dead latch on it. Took a key to open it inside as well as outside.
I know. And old Ben had orders not to
Just
admit
wait
anyone.
and listen, Mr. Hallett.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Lieutenant.
Ben's key is still in the inside of that lock. So he let somebody in. Now, that means somebody that he must have recognized.
Why do you say that?
I knew old Ben. I know he had orders not to let anybody in. Not anybody. Isn't that true, Mr. Hallett?
Yes, of course it is.
So I know he wouldn't. But of course, if his boss told him to open up.
Now, just a minute, Lieutenant. If you're implying what I think you are...
Yeah? Well, if the shoe fits. Don't worry, Mr. Hallett. He'll never be able to testify. Thanks to that bullet in his head.
Good Lord.
Breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
You know something?
Now, just a minute. Just 1 minute. Stop acting like a couple of angry kids. Lieutenant.
Yeah, well,
You say it was arson.
with a murder on top of it. And Mr. Harvey...
All right. Now, what kind of a device was used?
Device? What do you mean,
What
Doc?
kind of a timer to set it off?
Nothing. No device. Only a paraffin wick. Into a bottle or tank of some kind of that solvent in there.
How long a wick?
Only a couple of feet. And that means that somebody was in there only seconds before it went off. And that's somebody, Mr. Hallett.
I tell you, I was at home on the other side of town.
That's
And I
right,
tell
he was,
you, Mr.
Lieutenant.
Hallett. What did you say, Dollar?
He was at home, Lieutenant. I know, because I called him on the telephone only seconds before this thing started.
The slogan, "Join the Navy and see the world," still has the clang of truth to it, more than ever these days. But a more important aspect of the idea has been in operation in recent years. Let the world see the Navy, the United States Navy. Let the people know what a great bunch of guys there are in that traditional seagoing service. The men of the USS Providence, a cruiser in the United States Navy, did just that not too long ago, when the ship changed its home port from Boston to Long Beach, California. There was a chance to stop off at Veracruz, Mexico. Now, Mexico is one of the most fun-filled countries in the world, and the men from the USS Providence had a lot of fun making new friends for themselves and for the United States Navy. They heard that a hospital in Veracruz needed more deposits in its blood bank. A group of the Blue Jackets, on their own initiative, lined up and donated. Everybody likes kids, and the sailors from the Providence are no exception. They gave a shipboard ice cream party for the children from the local orphanage. A welcome aboard pamphlet was printed. A happy stream of visitors arrived to take a look at a small part of a great Navy. For a dash of music, so close to the hearts of the wonderful Mexican people, the ship's band gave a concert of jazz in the town square of Veracruz. And the mayor said, "Send us more ships like the Providence." It can't be denied that these men promoted understanding and freedom, the right of all men everywhere.
Item 3, 10 cents for a phone call to Mr. Jonathan Buckley at his home. Luck was with me. The Hallett Industries account was in Mr. Buckley's bank.
But now look here, Johnny. You know very well I can't tell you that. Such matters are completely confidential between a banker and his client.
Even though arson is involved, Mr. Buckley?
Even though, Johnny.
And a murder?
Murder?
That's right. Well?
What if I were simply to say that, in spite of all the money originally transferred from his New York bank, that Hallett's financial condition is pretty bad?
Oh?
Would that be of any help, Johnny?
It certainly would. Thanks.
Another thing, Dollar.
Yes, Lieutenant.
After those so-called burglaries, I checked over every one of Hallett's 8 employees myself. There isn't a cleaner bunch of people anywhere in town.
Well, even so.
I'm sure of it. What's more, I've known every one of them personally for years. Even went to school with a couple of them. So you see what I'm getting at? Hallett. Hallett is the only one we don't really know about.
Where'd he come from, Lieutenant?
Who knows? You think he'd tell us? The truth, that is?
Oh, wait a minute. Mr. Buckley, the banker.
What's he got to do with it?
Funds transferred, he said, from... Hey, you want to take me to a call to New York? The phone call was to an old friend of mine, Lieutenant Randy Singer, Detective Division, 18th Precinct, New York Police Department. One of the best of his kind I've ever known.
Okay, Johnny, let's have it. What sort of a jam do you expect me to get you out of this time? What you doing down here in New York?
I'm not. I'm up here in Hartford. Now, listen.
Oh, I get it. You need an excuse to pad out that fancy expense account of yours, huh? To impress somebody. So
Randy.
you're running up a phone bill.
Randy.
Oh, go ahead, Johnny. Talk it up. I'll make like I'm listening, and everybody will be happy. How are you, anyhow?
Randy, will you listen to me?
Yeah?
Does the name Harvey L. Hallett mean anything to you?
Paraffin Peterson.
What?
You heard me.
Oh, come on, make sense, will you?
You think we don't keep track of the crooks we've had to deal with even after they've been chased out of our fair city? Of course we do.
Randy.
And Paul Paraffin Peterson, well, we couldn't get a thing on him, by the way.
Randy, the man I'm interested in is Harvey L. Hallett.
But we did make it pretty rough on him. We dubbed him Paraffin Pete because of his one and only method of starting a fire. And that's the name he took on after we showed him the way out of town. He and that doll of his, Mary. Only Ma would be a better word.
The name, Randy?
What? Oh, the one you said.
Harvey L. Hallett?
Yep. Used to be known in these parts as Paul Peterson. Paraffin Peterson.
Okay, Randy, thank you. You hear it, Lieutenant?
Sure did, Dollar.
Looks like you were right. He's our man.
Yeah, but you yourself were his alibi. I mean, if you were really talking to him on the phone the same time as that fire was set...
Well, now, suddenly, I'm not so sure. Hallett Electronics, Well, maybe his product line includes something like... Come on, Lieutenant, we better get going.
Yeah, where?
Let's hope he hasn't got home from his fire yet. When we got there, Hallett was just walking into his front door, which means he didn't have time to put away the device that his wife, Mary, had been careless enough to leave sitting on a table not more than 2 feet away from the telephone.
Now, just a minute, Mr. Dollar. What...
Yes, Hallett?
You mind telling me why you two have bulled your way in here this way? Lieutenant, will you please stop fooling around with our tape recorder until I find out what this is all about?
If it's some music you want, I'll put on the radio. There's nothing on that tape but a lot of noise from a party we had.
Dollar, I asked you a question.
Are you ready, Lieutenant?
All set.
All right, I'll turn it on.
Oh, just a minute.
Hold it, Hallett. You pull that electric plug and I just might pull this trigger.
This is ridiculous.
Well, we'll see.
There's nothing on that tape, I tell you. There's nothing on it.
Harvey Hallett. Merry Christmas and all that, and listen now. I'm very anxious to see you and talk to you about some problems over at my electronics plant. But I have to leave now immediately.
Well, I must...
Can I call you on Tuesday? On Tuesday morning, to say about, Yes, I know, dear, I know. Dollar, I'm sorry, but I have to hang up. I'll call you on Tuesday.
So, Johnny?
That's right, Lieutenant. Pre-recorded here before he left to set the fire. So when I called in answer to his urgent message, all his wife had to do was hold the phone over next to this tape machine. No wonder I couldn't get a word in edgewise. Then, as soon as I hung up, she called him at the plant to go ahead. Any comment, Mr. Hallett? Expense account total? Forget it. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Okay, unmuted. One second here, having a snack. And this is the Monday Mystery Theatre on Old Time Radio. Johnny Dollar. Sorry about the crunching here. Having a little veggie snack. Also trying to veg out a little bit here. Like I said earlier, going to give way to the news guy show. Around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And Chad 80 here. Having yourself a good old time. Hey Chad, how you, buddy? It's a DJ Dirty. That's okay. Oh boy. I'm lucky I don't look at the chat here. During this news guy training, I doubt it. I'm gonna cue this up here, get it ready. A lot of trainings floating around. They're everywhere, especially in Baltimore. What can I tell you? Yeah, I mean, you should ask him. He'd probably deny it. But for those of you who don't think that news guy lives in Iceland, well, he's come onto my site. I've had various web pages in the past. And I knew when he was there, I don't look at the IP per se. I was just, there's a section on the websites where I want to see what countries they're coming from. And sure enough, occasionally an Icelandic IP would show up. I know who it was. So to people like a certain pastor, screwy pastor out in Missouri, screw you. I know better. In fact, I don't think you live in Missouri, Martin. You loser. And you are a loser. Anyhow, on to the next one. This sort of looks interesting. The title said Mason Dixon mismatch. And being I'm sort of below that Mason-Dixon line, theoretical line, so in my opinion, politically speaking, etc., etc., the South has sort of crept down to Virginia at this point. So I think the South begins somewhere around below Northern Virginia for various reasons, but anyway, enough on that. So, the final Johnny Dollar before I give away the news guy. And from the 9th of June, 1957, Johnny Dollar and Mason-Dixon mismatch. And mismatch. And here we go. And let me find the button now.
Hollywood, it's time now for Johnny Dollar.
Batter up, Johnny.
Who's that?
McGraw.
Oh, as if I didn't know. What's on your mind, Bert?
Dollar Mason. Ever hear of her? Her uncle Sylvester Mason.
Mason Steel and Iron?
And that's the man. Dollar's his favorite niece. About 6 weeks ago, she disappeared.
So?
So, yesterday, a body washed up on Newport Beach not too far from her parents' home.
Careless?
According to her father.
And you hold a policy on her?
For $25,000, double indemnity.
Ouch. So, why don't you pay it off?
Well, we would have, today, except for one thing.
Well, what's that?
Right after Mason identified the body, a man named Dixon showed up and swore it was the body of his daughter.
What? Bob Bailey
in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous free